Today, we're going to be discussing how builders are pulling back, even though we have a housing shortage.
Well, we do have a housing shortage, right? I mean, so why is that?
Well, building right now is slowing and it's not accelerating. So you would imagine that, they would be picking up steam since we need so many houses.
But they're not. Like builders would build if they can, right? I mean, that's their job, right? Like who doesn't want to build? That's the issue. It's just the price, construction costs and the interest rates, and you don't build unless somebody can buy.
Right. The math has to work.
Right. And the math is the customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So builders could build, but the last thing they want to do is sit on inventory.
Because they learned their lesson in 2008 when they had way too much inventory. And so now I think they're doing it more in, sections.
Well,
they're building.
You went out to a subdivision last week or a couple weeks ago, and there's quite a bit of product there, right?
There is. There's product and there's incentives. But I will tell you that, the incentives were better November, December. They were offering a 4.75 rate. Now that rate has gone up to 5%. And they were offering a 3.75 rate. And that rate has went up to 4%. And they were only keeping that through the end of February. And then they're going to be raising it again.
4% still really good. That's like 2 point less. And so let's figure that. If it's a $500,000 home, 2% is a lot.
Yeah, I think it was about $800 savings for my client, and the home was around,
right?
Yep, and it was around $400 and some thousand.
Okay, so call that 10 grand, right? So somebody's eating that, and it's just it gets baked into the builders' incentives and their sales costs, right?
Yeah, but they also are, like I said, the incentives were better, and then they're getting not as good. So you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at that as a buyer. You have to realize that means the market is picking up. That's why they're raising their rates.
Well, maybe, or could be, a marketing tactic where they're just offering on one or two houses and create the urgency. But the reality is this: if a builder is having to do those kinds of incentives, that's not good. That eats into profit. And that's actually the real issue here is, so if it costs 8 or 9% construction debt on the interest rate on the construction to, let's say, to build something, and then you're getting whacked on the, we'll call it the exit or the customer, and they have to bake that into their sales and marketing costs, they're going to pull back. Because at the end of the day, why would you build? All you're basically doing is keeping all the subcontractors in business and all that kind of stuff, there is strategy to that. I've actually been through cycles before where that's happened, where you don't want a framer to go out of business that you've used for 5 years, right?
Right.
So if you're communicating with them and they do, they're your lifeblood, right? Because what you're doing is you're buying land, going to the bank, getting financing, and building out a subdivision, or let's say, but you need all those subs to be able to do the work, and that there has been some issues there. A lot of these subs have maybe they had too much overhead. Maybe maybe they're just not big enough. They're kind of mom and popish, and they haven't been able to make it. Right. And so it's a fine balance if you're a general contractor to be able to manage all those subs too. But the reality is this: land really hasn't gone down that much. Construction costs and construction debt hasn't really gone down that much. And even with all this, new stuff coming out of the administration, the interest rates are still 2% off of, whether or not people are going to be able to buy a new home or not.
Yeah. And you have to look at, financing is a huge deal for them right now because their cost of capital, no matter what they're offering in rates, they're eating that. So you have to, think about that when you have to understand that when they're looking at whether they should continue to build or not, whether it makes sense.
Well, obviously, if you're Pulte, Lennar, something like that, your cost of capital is really low. That's a huge competitive advantage. But if they start building a home and that home sits for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, it just crushes the profit, right? Because what they want is they want to build 3 model homes and have somebody come in and say, I want this one with, beige carpet. and then they build it, and now the homeowner actually has the wait time. What's risky is when they actually start building these houses, and it's like you build it, they will come model, right? That's how builders get crushed. And so they're kind of in this chicken and egg issue right now, where do you start something, build it, and then hope you have a buyer? Because every single month that it's done, your profit margin's just getting crushed. You got your cost of capital, like, because you're financing that. So there's still a construction loan on those deals. And the only way to pay all of that off is the homeowner.
Right.
Whoever's going to buy that house is going to have to pay it off. So they pay off the builder, they pay off the construction loan, they pay off all that stuff. And so the wait time, the lag time, and the construction costs is precisely why people are kind of pulling back right now.
Yep. And these phase developments are a real thing, where instead of building a whole community, they are building in the chunks, right? And that way, it really protects them from sitting on all those homes like they did in 2008.
Yeah, but then there's little pockets that are crushing it. Like in Phoenix here where we live, there's the Taiwan semiconductor plant, right, which has got thousands of new employees. And you guys just look it up. It's super impressive. We fly over it every time we come into Deer Valley, which is where we park.